Good evening. It's 5:30 and I call this workshop of the Victoria City Council to order. We have one item on our workshop agenda this evening, which is our Downtown West Phase 2 Development Proposal Review. Kicking us off this evening on that topic in the development team is our Community and Economic Development Director, Jen Brewington. Ms. Brewington, the floor is yours.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So let's just get started here. So in September, the city launched a request for proposal for Phase 2 of Downtown West. And Phase 2 aims to create a vibrant mixed-use area. And the RFP request was focusing on keeping the small town feel, mix of housing, retail, green space, and pedestrian connections. The city did receive 3 proposals from Doran Company in collaboration with Inland Development Partners, Monarch Development Partners, and Roars Companies. The proposals were assessed using key criteria to ensure the alignment with the city's vision. The first one was responsiveness, so how well did the proposal address the city's goals? Capability, the developer's ability to successfully execute the proposed project. Creativity, the level of innovation and uniqueness in their design, and experience that the developers have. The City Council did outline a clear vision for Downtown West, focusing on the key following areas on the screen. And after reviewing and scoring the proposals, the mayor, city council, and internal staff identified Monarch Development Partners as the preferred candidate for further discussion. So tonight, an oral interview with Monarch Development Partners is scheduled to clarify some specific aspects of their proposal, ensuring a comprehensive understanding of its details. So the discussion will focus on how the proposal aligns with the community values, objectives, council's vision, community's vision, and emphasizing its contributions to the broader vision of Downtown West. So now I will like to introduce the Monarch team, and I'll have Carl come up here to introduce his crew here.
Mr. Runk, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Good to be back here. And while it says Monarch Development, which is my entity, the team I have assembled, this is part of the team, is here tonight as well, and they come from different lines of expertise and backgrounds, and I'd like to introduce them all to come up here. But in terms of, I just want to say thank you for considering our proposal and selecting us as the group to take on this important vision and to establish it together. I don't know if that came through clearly, but the whole idea is to work on this as a public-private partnership versus us having a fixed vision that we want to develop and impose here. So I'd like to run through that first and then introduce the rest of the team. And in terms of dates that I've worked on as targeted times with Jen and Dana, we're looking out the next 60 days to have workshops together. And between now and a proposed workshop on January 31st for that afternoon, our team would like to put together a lot of due diligence because it's a pretty big site, as you all know. I think you've all walked it. There's no current survey on the site. There's not soil tests. There's a lot that we have to understand just about the actual site and infrastructure, that's coming around it. And then there's also the market. That we have a market study that's in the works right now with Marquette Advisors, one of the preeminent firms in the Twin Cities on the housing supply and demand for this neighborhood that we're envisioning here in terms of what's missing. There's been a lot of apartments, of course, have been proposed and now built with the Roars project and the new Schaefer-Richardson project. And we're proposing different types of housing that would be more of a Main Street walk-up type of housing that's missing right now in downtown that we're really excited about. And as part of the reason I chose the team I did that have experience with this type of housing between villas and row homes and condos in addition to rentals. If you can go back to that, Jen. So that, and then also retail. Our proposal is unique that we're also looking at building the commercial retail buildings here based on market demand again. And right now we have brokers that aren't here tonight and a retail developer not here tonight working on that right now. So we're prepared for this workshop with you on January 31st to go through who are the users out there looking for this exact location to complement what's in downtown Victoria today and add to downtown Victoria over there, given the population growth of Victoria and the surrounding areas. So we're ultimately preparing for an in-depth packet to share with you all in advance of that workshop. And then a follow-up workshop we're proposing on February 10th. And then after that, we'd like to establish a scoping document, we call it, if you could go to the next slide, which really defines these key items, key issues for what Downtown West becomes, where we have a proposed vision or several concepts you saw in our proposal, but let's narrow it down together in terms of the street grid. Should the street grid match the current downtown Victoria, which is about 250 feet by 250 feet city street blocks? Should it be slightly different in that? We'd like to work with you on that. And do the streets, of course, we like to see sidewalks, we like to see boulevards, trees, lights. We want to have an established joint vision on what the grid is we're creating to expand upon downtown Victoria as it is today. The public spaces, we know that's really important, that we look at the public space that's been designated and how is it programmed? What are the views of Sager Lake if it has views? How does it connect to the current, the downtown here? Can we build a boardwalk that's been proposed, you saw, from here all the way over to Victoria Drive to have a future trail connection up to Carver Park Reserve's many trails. And we have an advisor not here tonight, Max Musican, who works with the city of Edina and Wayzata and other cities on programming these public spaces so we make sure it's successful and not vacant and not competing with other Victoria parks, that it becomes a space that families really want to visit year-round. Project scale, density, and heights, we want to make sure we're on the same page with you regarding what types of heights and densities feel right here. Should it be one-story villas? Should we look at two-story row homes? Should we look at some three-story condo buildings? We really want to work together in terms of what are the right heights to establish for this development so it feels right for Victoria. And then the housing types themselves, looking at for sale again versus for rent. And we're looking at the market, supply and demand, and we will share openly what that market demand study shows for this location. The retail commercial types, as I mentioned, we'll size it for a small town scale that you were seeking in your proposal. And that means really an extension of what's successful in downtown here and the scale of buildings that people like to add over there to be successful for today's tenants looking for space there. And with that goes public parking to make sure that there's adequate public parking day one to sign on retail tenants for visitors coming in and for the housing uses, and making sure that we're addressing the market ultimately and for both types of uses there. And then also as important with all this is what's the overall theme and aesthetic that the city's interested in here? And do we want to keep with the more traditional theme that downtown Victoria has, which we support, and have inspirational images that we're all using as we design the buildings and bring applications forward to the city with specific buildings. Infrastructure, and there's a big price for all this infrastructure to build streets and to build a park and stormwater utilities, and we will want to be able to have that defined with you. In addition to an engagement process with the public, and how are we interacting with the public as we create this joint vision together. So there's open communication beyond just the central website. There's open communication and inviting opinions in about what this ultimately becomes together. And then the rest of it's really, we'll continue to add to this list, but this is meant to be a major item list that we want to work on with you over the next 2 months, and then come to you for consideration as an actual document that's approved by you that we then use to start designing actual projects for the infrastructure, for the first housing buildings and the first retail buildings. So we're not going backwards again, we're going forwards with what this project is. The team, as mentioned, that has been assembled, brings a lot of different perspectives and experiences, and not everyone is here, but I'd like to start with my co-developers. If Dan and Jim might want to come up and speak a bit, as well as Kent and Eric here tonight. Matt Pavick, you know him from his work in the city here as a developer and as a civil engineer. He's a civil engineer on this project. Terry Menark could not be here tonight, but he's done some of the most high-profile master planning in the Twin Cities in the last 5 years in other suburbs, which we're very excited about him being involved. He couldn't make it tonight, but he'll be part of these workshops we do together. With that being said, do you want to come up?
Hi, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Dan Schaefer with SW Group.
Welcome.
Thank you. So, yes, thanks for having us here. As Carl said, so we're part of the core development team. We're doing a project right now over in City of Mound on Lake Minnetonka together. It's our first project together as this team. I've been around since '98 developing single family, multifamily, for rent, for sale. So bringing experience to that. So our main focus is helping guiding the housing typology the design of that, constructing the housing, and as we say right now, we think it's all mostly going to be for sale is the intent. But yeah.
Perfect, thank
Thanks.
you. Hi, please introduce yourself.
Jim Gooley, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to be part of this team. I was formerly the chair of the Planning Commission in Wayzata. Worked in real estate my entire career, and I love to get involved in projects, including this one that we're doing in Mound and what we'd like to do here, where you have passion for the project. I mean, you can feel a part of it. This isn't just, you know, a real estate development opportunity. This is something you can be passionate about. For me personally, the walkability of this project from downtown to you know, that to me is what this is all about. You want to be able to walk downtown. You want to be able to shop. Your family, friends, whatever. You just, there's such an amazing opportunity here that I think we, you know, really want to try to capture Willie as a group with you. So if you have any questions, we're here, but appreciate this opportunity.
Very good, thank you.
Good
evening.
evening, Madam Mayor, I should say, sorry about that, and members of the council. I'm Kent Carlson, and I've been in the real estate development business for over 40 years. I spent 30 plus years at the Ryan organization in a variety of different positions, doing land development and industrial development, office development, and some retail. One of the projects I did here in the Twin Cities was Dean Lakes, which is down in Shakopee. It consisted of 350 plus acres, 400 homes, 400,000 feet of retail, and 1,700,000 square feet of office and light industrial space. Also been working candidly the last 10 years with a lot of cities. Worked with the city of Robbinsdale on the redevelopment of the Terrace Mall back in 2016, and Parker Station Flats, which is a 200-unit multifamily project across the street. The city of Richfield on the development of 300-plus apartment units south of 66, or on 66, just west of Cedar Avenue, where the airport had expanded a number of years ago. And that's a 20-year-plus relationship with the city of Richfield. I also serve, candidly, as the mayor of Deep Haven these days for the last 2 years, with 6 years on the council prior and 12 years on the planning commission prior to that. So I bring kind of an interesting perspective of both the elected officials as well. And I'm here really to assist you and the development team figure out the best way to work with that site and to bring your vision forward. So thanks for having us, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mayor Carlson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Eric Anderson. I've got a bit of a bifurcated career. I spent my first 17 years with the city of Edina, the last 10 being their deputy city manager, and I spent the infancy of my job on Edinburgh and Centennial Lakes when it was a gravel pit, and how we reformed that into something completely different. I became kind of the TIF guru for all that. We had about 9 different TIF districts, and it was fun to do, but early 2000s I decided it was time to go over someplace else. I went to Ryan, spent 20 years there. I did everything from the Westin Galleria condo and hotels to, I did some office development, some other land planning type stuff, and then I found my niche in senior housing. And I developed about $1 billion in project cost in senior living, luxury, mostly in the South, but did a ton of projects doing that. Retired a couple years ago. Kent and I have been friends for a long time, and we both got kind of an itch for the public side as well. I'll also disclose I'm the chairman of the Economic Development Commission for the city of Chanhassen. So look forward to be part of this. It's fun seeing master plan developments, and I've kind of sat on both sides of the table, so it's interesting perspective. So thank you for having me.
Very good. Chair Commissioner Anderson, thank you. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Matt Pavick with Civil Site Group. Just a quick resumes. I've been doing civil engineering now for about 25 years. Been working in the city of Victoria for the last 10, doing various projects. Been working with Karis that entire time. So I'm really familiar with your staff, planning staff, engineering staff, public works folks, and I think this is going to be a really fun project to work on as a civil engineer. Lots of infrastructure challenges, and we'll look forward to solving those. So this will be a fun project. Thank you.
Do you have an election certificate you want to disclose? Very good.
Well, that's what we'd like to really accomplish. We'd love to answer your questions or address any comments or concerns you might have about our proposed process really here that we have, because we don't have a vision yet. Again, it's a process to get to that vision together. So.
Right. I think, council, comments for these fine gentlemen this evening? Anybody want to kick us off here? I think I'll get us started, I guess, since everybody else is kind of quiet tonight. I think, Carl, you've been around a long time. Matt, you've seen us, so you kind of know what we're looking for here. Victoria is a small town, and we like things that are small scale. We like things that fit. We want this to be a beautiful continuation of what we already have here. We think that we've got something pretty special, and we want to keep that going as we move a little further west. I love the idea of walk-ups, brownstones, smaller. We, as you can see, if you drive around Victoria, we've got a number of multifamily apartment buildings. We feel like we've been told we have enough of that. So we're looking for some different housing types. And senior housing is a big thing that we hear a lot about, is single level living. We hear a lot about that, and creating community. So we have these beautiful Steiger Lake condos that are right over here, always full. It's a beautiful building. There's a lot of great community space in there that's well utilized. I think those are the kinds of things that we're looking for. Very active space. It is, we were down, my husband and I were down here last weekend. A lot of people walking around. You're parking once, you're walking around, there's people out on the streets. It feels vital and fun. And we want to kind of create that. Loved what you said about kind of taking a look at where are the needs and where are the niches that can be filled from a service, from a retail standpoint. Really curious about the retail market right now. We've got a lot of stuff that went online and some of those kinds of things. So just really curious about what you're seeing in that retail market.
Well, I could speak maybe first about that again, we have a retail developer that's not with us tonight, and retail brokers, but the retail users are, they're all different, and they have different needs, and they have need for certain traffic counts and certain projections of revenue they could earn here. We're not sure what the mix is yet. We can't promise you today that there's going to be, there was a grocer at one time. We can't promise you there's going to be that. And we can't promise you who the restaurants are for the anchor tenants yet, but we're starting with the anchors is what we could share in terms of researching who's out there as could be the anchors and then filling in from that. And knowing that we're trying to balance something difficult here, which is an auto-centric, what works today, as you know, is auto-centric retail spaces, but we're trying to make this an extension of downtown Victoria that's walkable, and that with these street grids that are what you people like about downtown Victoria today. So we have a challenge in front of us in terms of how do we lay that out, like our proposal showed, is do you have parking in the middle? Do you have parking visible from Highway 5? How does this really feel like it's an extension of downtown Victoria? So I don't have a direct answer yet in terms of retail, but we're planning ahead with anchors in mind first, and then the smaller tenants that want to be complementary to those. And then how is that mix complementary to what's already in downtown Victoria today?
Yeah, good. Jen, the pictures that you're showing us, do you want to talk us through those a little bit? And or Carl,
sure,
I guess you're going to
since it
talk
came
us
from
through
us.
Yeah.
You want these?
Why don't you start back with the images from the proposal. This is, beyond the housing, since the mayor's just talking about retail. If you can go back to the other site plans from the proposal itself, Jen. So these slides, if you had looked at these starting there with the connections and then here, how do we divide up this space into walkable blocks? And, if we can start from a grid, there's a lot of flexibility with the street grid in terms of housing types, as we showed here. If we did 1-story villas or 2-story row homes or 3-story condos, in terms of densities. And then this slide on retail, it's hard to see this, but going down here shows a couple of different concepts of how can we create some smaller buildings that line Highway 5, but also are, have lots of parking that people are looking for and that these retailers need. And then how does it still connect visually to this boardwalk and connect visually to Carver Park Reserve? And how does it, like I was talking to Mark Halstis with the cities, how does this ultimately tier with the topography? Is there a way of doing that with retaining walls so it feels unique and special, this village on a hill, but still satisfying what retailers are looking for down here in terms of the spaces that we have and the parking that they require. So again, we don't have a fixed vision. These are ideas that we want to continue exploring together and deciding together what that ultimately becomes. And this shows on the active spaces that those want to be, surrounded by active uses too, and not dormant. In our minds, it should be, if we find, let's say, 2 anchor uses on the edges, could those be on the edges, like those, Jen, those images I shared from Carmel, Indiana, and Easton, Ohio, where there's examples where you have active uses with green space in the middle, with semi-enclosed structures, lots of seating, and I know Dana has a fondness for this one, where my in-laws live as well in Wisconsin. That's a brewery right next to this new plaza they built in this downtown, small town Wisconsin. But and there's things for all ages year round. It's not just in the summertime. So our goal is creating spaces that meld the two horizontally between public spaces and retail spaces with these anchoring uses. And then how does the public realm all connect that together and then connect downtown Victoria you have here?
Just a comment on that, Carl. I like that courtyard type, I'll call it a courtyard view. And I think somebody's got familiarity with Galleria or the, Centennial Lakes, I should say. And that's that same feel, right? It's a larger scale, but it's that same feel where it's community in the middle there and surrounding. I love that feel.
Yeah, that's our goal is, learning from the best examples here and around the country that we could apply it at a small scale here that we all want, like as you mentioned, Mayor, regarding being really sensitive to scale here, that this is a small town expansion. We're not adding a large city over there. It's an extension of what's already here today.
Yeah. Do you want to walk us through some of the other images that you've shared? Some of these are really
Sure, yeah.
beautiful and curious about them.
If you want to go to the
Back here.
back to the beginning of those. So this one's in Easton Town Center outside of Columbus, Ohio, where that's been a successful horizontally mixed-use center, primarily retail, but this is one of their entertainment wings, if you will, that's outdoors, that has 4 anchoring uses surrounding this shared space, where there's plenty of parking around to serve the restaurant uses, entertainment uses, but you have shared space in the middle that's activated, not just in the summer, but like this time of year, they have a Christmas tree out there and a lighting ceremony, and there's ways to make it year-round, active that way.
And I love how each of the buildings is unique. They don't look like the same thing.
Exactly, yeah. So we thought as well that we want diversity that's why we haven't named all the architects for the project yet. We want to be selective who the architects are for the retail buildings and the housing. So it feels like there's diversity of housing, but there's a common thread yet among it.
Yeah, I think I share the mayor's vision that I think diversity in the commercial structures is a really desirable concept for us. And so is this what you're saying is the activated buffer zone in concept B of your 2AB concepts that's prior to
Yes, we're thinking right now that this could be what's an iconic feature of downtown West. This could be we think an iconic feature if we can make it happen. And it starts with these anchoring uses and attracting them. And then it's this infill space and making sure it's programmed right from the beginning that it's actually successful. The last thing we want is that to be just dormant and quiet. We want people to be there year round and really using the space. And it's similar to the next slide, Dana, as far as, again, this really small town version and with less density than Victoria and Shawano, Wisconsin. But the other example was in Carmel, Indiana. Does that show up, Dana?
This one.
Oh, it didn't come on here.
No.
I think it might have been on your cover slide, but yeah, the previous slide was in downtown that one. That's in Carmel, Indiana, which is a very known for urban planning, being a very successful suburb, and creating a town center here that has, again, an active use there with the restaurant space facing this public plaza, and then bike trails and kind of all modes of transportation connect there. And then in terms of walk-up units, this is an example at the Glenview, Illinois, which was a naval base turned into a new town that's been now 20 years in the making and very well received by the market between retail. And this is right next door to retail, where you have walk-up row houses like this. This is just a flavor of what we're thinking in terms of, does the market support this? We think it does. We would like more research on that.
Yeah.
And what does it ultimately become? Which is why we want housing type, the heights, the aesthetics, all that in the scoping documents, so we're on the same page about how we advance the plans for individual projects here. And this project, you've probably all seen on France Avenue, south of 50th and France. Again, it's maintenance-free living, really high standards of housing that you could walk to 50th and France from this building. So we see similar needs for, like you were describing, for empty nesters or others who want this type of housing that's maintenance-free, close to downtown Victoria, or the new expansion of retail we do in downtown West.
I mean, these are two great concepts because, as everybody knows, Victoria has a pretty healthy housing stock of equity that where people would want to be able to stay, but maybe not want to take care of a 3/4 acre or 1 acre lot, and 10,000 square foot of house could get this level of feel to, maybe not downsize in my pocketbooks, but certainly these check a lot of boxes, I think, for what we would need to satisfy those who want to stay but still be able to have.
That's exactly right. And saying what size of units would attract people downsizing from a home in Victoria? I mean, and so we can really dial in on, is it 2 bedrooms, 2 baths? Is it some 3 bedrooms? Is it small units, or is it large? We'll really dial in on what those want to be and what price points we really want to hit, knowing that everyone wants the best everything, but there's also a price limit. So we need to figure out how to design and build what we're talking about here through that market study again.
I mean, I guess I would just add that, we've done a lot of talking, right, about, this area, and I thought your group knocked it out of the park, right? Like, I mean, it kind of just hit on everything that we have talked about, right? It's the walkability, it's combining that community, those houses, right? I love the row houses, right? You got the stoop there where the kids are going to play, right? And then you've got the open space, the green space that, people can go and enjoy it, sitting, whether it's sitting out, just enjoying a drink outside but it feels very, community. And I think that's what we've wanted, right? Like, we don't want just one big retailer for that area. You want it to be a community.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly our intent. We're aligned entirely that way, that it wants to feel like a community, and it's an alternative to what you find in most subdivisions in the suburbs, where it's walkable, it's community, and there's already a downtown here. This just adds more offerings to what people are looking for here in Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I also think about what I'll call infill, because we have the parcel that 13.5 acres, but ultimately this provides, I think, that drive that we need to get infill of spaces that are not part of this right now. So if we go back to where the proposed boardwalk is on the overall map at the beginning of the presentation, it's these kind of feel and housing options that are going to be needed to break free that strip that's going to connect downtown as we know it and downtown West. I think we all share this idea that we don't want this to be like an island in and of itself and disconnected. And this feels as though this is potentially the key that unlocks that strip there to say, you know what, it's time to reuse this for something that drives that connectivity. So, like Chad said, I think you knocked it out of the park with that. And, just kind of going back to where you're thinking of which concept, these housing structures that you talk about seem to be fit best in option concept B, because you're not single level, but you're not filling in with what we already feel that we have plenty of north of 3 stories high.
The other thing I really like about your proposal is collaboration. I think that's huge in something like this, and you're already mapping that out. Several phases. I know there's some unknowns and things like that, and you're going to do the research and work with us on that in the community, but I think that's a great step.
Thank you. And the phasing itself of execution, we're going to propose building this in phases, just to let the market absorb instead of doing it all at once, and potentially having vacancies, which we don't. We want to make sure we're on the mark for what the market's looking for as we continue building, and we'll work with you on what that phasing plan wants to be.
Yeah, I think that's wise. Yeah, this is just such a special property. As it overlooks that big regional park, it's just such a special property, and we all really want this done well and done right. And I think we're on that path. So great. Other comments from development team, or I don't want to shut off any conversation with the council. Here's a question for you, Carl, before you sit down. We live in Minnesota, and it's cold here in the winter. And we talk about these big outdoor activated spaces. And can you talk a little bit about how you've thought about that for a place like Minnesota?
I can tell you my third grader never gets cold and loves to be outside. So I think there's a way to potentially think about programming this with kid-centric things that they want to be outside here yet. And we don't know what that is. There's topography there. I was just thinking of Lambeau Field. They built this snow tubing hill that's ranks on the field for kids, and we have topography. Are there ideas like that to consider here that could be used year round in these public spaces? And so I think the ideas are endless. It's what's actually going to work here in winter months and summer months, and we think the right team to work together on this, on programming it that way.
Yeah, awesome, great.
And I'll just throw a quick comment about your concept A and concept B, which is the page that's after your density concept. I think it's fair to say you won't be able to get everything on day one, and many things will be in the future. And I look at concept B, and I like that, having that parking space where you're not having buildings blocking the view from Highway 5 as people travel by. It's easier to see over a parking lot and see that shining example that's on the hill, as opposed to it maybe being obscured by the commercial units in concept A. And then that gets you this activated buffer zone. And then lastly, we all talk about parking, and is there going to be enough? If from where my head is at, concept B would allow for a better placeholder for a future, structure that would have maybe underground parking in it and then building above it. You would be able to get that later in the future a whole lot easier than if you landlocked that strip of property with commercial buildings.
Yeah, something on parking we were thinking about is all the topography here. And if you've all walked the site, I just did that this weekend for the first time with my family. It's surprising how much topography is back there. And is there a way to use that to our advantage with structured parking, where there could be, like in Wayzata, their garage is just one simple level carved into the side of a hill? Could we do that here at a more inexpensive way with dollars here to double the parking count that feels easy to get in and out of for retail customers, for example? So parking is definitely going to drive a lot of how this ultimately turns out, and we want to be considerate from the front end of how we're planning it.
Good. Great. Any other comments from the development team? It's a blank slate. Let's go have some fun, right? All right. Council, any other comments, questions? All right. Go ahead. Do you have some?
We look forward to working with you closely on this. And we've, again, proposed and established 2 different workshop dates, but it doesn't mean we can't be talking between now and then, of course, as this is all being prepared to talk together. So
yeah, great.
Look
all right.
forward to it.
Thanks. Yeah, Ms. Hardy, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So just before you wrap up here, I just want to talk about some next step things, and Jen can jump in here too if she wants. But of course, as Ms. Brewington noted earlier, what you're seeing here is in response to a request for proposals or RFP that we had conducted earlier this year. We did receive those 3 proposals. So staff, I just want to make sure that we just say for anybody who is watching us this evening that staff did independently review each of these proposals and score them. And so it was our recommendation from a staff perspective to move Monarch and the team that you see here forward for what we're calling this as an oral interview. Before you make any official decisions about next steps. I think what I was hearing here tonight, key points, just a couple of things to review, that this proposal really aligns really well with your vision and the community's vision. As you know, we've done extensive engagement on what downtown West should look like. With that, we heard scalability for our community, ensuring that we maintain a small town feel as this space develops, providing a good mix of diversity in both the commercial structures and for housing, adequate parking from day one for all retail housing and visitors, and then connectivity not only within the site but also to downtown and the park. So I think those are the things that you were looking for, so I wanted to note those this evening. So if you agree, and then after you've heard more about the proposal, if there aren't any other questions or feedback for staff, our intent would be to bring you some sort of memorandum of understanding document that we would work with our city attorney to draft, and ideally bring that forward for you to consider at the next meeting. That MOU would give us, allow us to leap into those workshops that Mr. Runk and team noted, and we would be having those regular engagements, public discussions at a workshop setting, but also there would be many, many more in between meetings with the staff team as well to make sure that we're all aligned and moving in the right direction. So I just wanted to note that for anybody who's watching us this evening. So that is all I had to add. And I don't know if Jen had anything else before we wrapped up.
Ms. Brewington, you're all set? All right, yeah, thank you for acknowledging that we did have a couple other proposals and we reviewed those, and this was the one most in line with the vision that we had kind of set forth, so very good. So seeing no more discussion on this, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the workshop.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion, can I get a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. We'll reconvene.